So what is it? What's this amazing testing process that gets you such great results?
So it's very simple. I'll give it away because I got no problem giving it away. So
I assume you're mostly shooting digital, right?
Yeah.
Is that changing the way that you decide to work with color?
The beauty of it, of course, is that you can have that communication in real time on set. It's funny because early days of like digital with Todd Phillips, initially he didn't like the what you see is what you get aspect of it. For Todd, who's so focused on actors, he just hated that. He's like, this is what it's going to look like. And then it became a distraction for him to have to think about that during the shooting day. I remember even going back to like day one on Joker, in 2018, I would just cycle through some color temperatures. So it'd be like, let's set up a room and put it at 3200. And then I would go, let's look at it at 3600. Let's look at it at 4000. Let's look at it at 4500. I'm not one of those DPs that does a lot of coloring. I get a LUT, I try to refine the LUT as best as I can, but then I just light it like a movie and I try to shoot it as much like in camera as possible.
It becomes a film stock after that, that's right. That's what you're working with.
But that color temperature aspect of the digital cameras is actually something in which you can make a global adjustment.
Obviously you're not working with exclusively one director, no DP can do that.
Yes.
except maybe like Janusz.
Yes, that's exactly right. It was funny you say Janusz because I was literally having a conversation with my nephew who's a film student right now. And I was like, yeah, that Janusz Spielberg relationship is probably the longest running in the history of film.
That kind of relationship with a DP and a director is so rare, but you kind of had that with Todd. You guys keep coming back to each other. Is Todd more of a visual director or more focused on the acting and everything?
Well, he knows what he likes visually, that's for sure. But I would say because he's a writer-director, everything starts with the page. And because of that, I think he's more of like an actor's director. But he writes with flourishes of visual stuff. He'll write actual, things that are very clear as to what his intent is. That doesn't mean we always follow through with that.
Right.
But he definitely, like all writers, even I've always contended that like a writer, director, or even a director, they don't really need to know that much about the camera, but what they do need to know is the emotional intent of the scene. Todd and I's conversations are very much that.
Is it off-putting for you when you have a more visual director that is more attuned with the technical side of the camera and composition and lenses and everything like that?
Not really. Jama Colette Serra, who did Black Adam, he's like that. He's the guy who was in his early days would shoot and direct commercials. So very similar to Fincher or James Cameron or those kind of filmmakers that really can do the job. And I quite liked it because at least there you could bridge that communication of just lensing. You could talk about lensing. They had a perspective on lensing and all that kind of stuff. But I used to say I remember there was a movie called Hotel for Dogs.
Yeah,
and I basically it was between me and another guy. And I remember interviewing for it. And he had the whole movie storyboarded. And I basically was like, oh, so you just want to execute these storyboards, much like a commercial director. And he's like, yeah, this is the movie. And I was like, I probably am not the guy for you. I generally tend to be better suited with those sort of writer-directors in which I can kind of help carry a little bit of the load of the compositional stuff, of the lighting, allow them to really focus on the acting, and then I can be sort of strong in the visual side.
A lot of DPs don't realize that you don't have to work with a director that doesn't fit your style of working. You know what I mean? Even though Richardson and Scorsese had a brief, very good collaboration, but there's a story that Richardson told once about him coming in with a bunch of ideas and storyboards and stuff like that, and then Scorsese calling him into the office and saying,
so I put together these ideas of shots and things for the film, and I've done that my whole career with Oliver. With Marty, he got these notes, and Marty got on the phone, very polite. He goes, Bob, I got your notes. I have not looked at them, nor will I ever look at them. When I finish writing the script and I'm happy with my script, I will give you a notes for every shot in the film. That was it. All right, I guess I'll be operating and lighting on this show. Some people want more help.
It's like, you know, if that's not what you want to work with, just know that and don't move towards those directors.
And that can become certainly very frustrating unless you actually go in and say, this is the job. This is this kind of movie.
Right.
In which some stuff is going to be thought out before I even arrive, and some stuff I'm going to have a lot of say on, and some stuff I'm just going to be executing something, and that's the job, and you go, great. But if you fight against that, you're going to have a very frustrating experience, and it'll probably be an unsatisfying experience, to say the least.
ShotDeck is a library of images that come from television and film that are cataloged for you to use as reference images. They have so many images from so many films and so many great directors and cinematographers that you can just have access to. Go to ShotDeck.com and use promo code FILMCRUX at checkout, all capital letters, to get 40% off of your subscription. Again, that's promo code FILMCRUX in all capital letters to get 40% off of your subscription.
2 comic book movies that you worked on, Joker and Black Adam, I would assume Black Adam had a lot more previs along with it than Joker.
100%. I mean, a lot of that movie was previs.
Right.
You know, I would.
Is that
say
more
that's
frustrating
good.
for you though? Like I feel
No,
like
because I was involved in those previses. So then
Gotcha.
it was kind of exciting. And I was like, I remember we did a previs sequence on War Dogs, and Todd was like, well, because I think honestly Warner Brothers said, hey, you want to do some previs? And Todd's like, what the fuck is previs, man? And so we were like, this isn't really a previs movie, but we had that one sequence when they kind of wake up and they're like, they don't know where their driver is. They get like chased by these guys, and the helicopters come to save the day, and it's like kind of an involved sequence. So Todd and I sat down. We wrote out basically like an editorial shot list. I was like, together, let's just imagine this is already finished.
Right.
Let's talk through shot by shot. I'll make a list of 88 shots, sit with this previous artist, and we'll come up with it. And it was great because we just went through and we actually set all the lenses. And then at one point we went, oh shoot, we're gonna shoot at a different time of day. We flipped the sun. It was in real space, so we knew exactly where the sun was gonna be.
Yeah.
And then we went and actually executed that, and it was super fun. We didn't have a lot of time, but we were able to do it really efficiently. And if you watch that previs and you watch the actual finished sequence, they're damn close. There are movies in which directors come on and previs has already been created.
I have a friend that asked me would I do one of those big superhero movies, and I was like, no, it just doesn't seem like it's for me. Not because I don't enjoy them, because I do, but like when you're taking that work out of the director and the cinematographer's hands, it's just like it's an assembly line at that point.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's by its nature is exactly that. It's got a lot of moving parts, and it's not an auteur situation.
You're doing a lot of effects heavy films now, but you always seem to go back to more comedic films. Even the film that you directed, is that like a conscious decision?
I think the movies I like the most are movies that combine tragedy and comedy. Like, just that's what life is, right? And I don't know if I succeeded as much in Father Figures, but I tried to like have a little bit of a balance. But that was the objective, and it's a little bit hard because sometimes you're trying to service a master that wants something much broader, and you want to make something more Alexander Payne, and you get caught kind of in the middle, and that might have been what happened with my movie. But the objective of like finding that kind of absurdist thing, and then I realized, like, I was with my family this Thanksgiving, and you sit down with 10 people and go, hey, let's watch a movie, and you realize they'll pick a comedy because it's like, and you go,
almost every time
there's merit to that, right? Or at least they'll pick something that has something comedic in it. Like, it's not just either feels like it's like homework, or it's too dark and dismal. It's hard to do comedy because here's the thing: everyone knows when you miss, right?
Yes.
Like, like when you miss on a drama, the same silence that exists on a drama that's working exists in a drama that's not working.
Yeah.
But silence in a comedy, you know, you missed, right? Like, so
Right.
the target's very clear.
When you're directing, what's your relationship like with the DP? Are you the type of director that's giving very specific notes on what you want for shots and everything like that?
Yeah, here's what I think I learned in my first movie, is I was probably a director that I wouldn't have wanted to shoot for.
It has to be that way because you know visual storytelling and the art of cinematography so well. It's hard. I would imagine it's hard to separate. Even when I do it, it's just like I can't stop the two. That like they're converging.
Yeah,
at the same
right.
time.
But yet I'd be like, well, of course, when a director gives me a lot of like freedom to sort of try things and have some autonomy,
Yeah.
it of course makes you feel good, just like everyone on set. But then having to do that when you're that in charge and like you gotta make it's something I have to grow into and be better at. Like I got a little better on the pilot because I was working with Ross Reagan. He was really great, and I felt like I was able to allow. We had the conversations. Sort of, I'd give some perspective on where I felt like the coverage needed to be from, but then let him lens it and stuff like that, and then just give little notes if I saw something, you know, from a framing standpoint. But every once in a while, like there was a scene that wasn't quite working Steadicam, and I threw the camera on my shoulder and just operated it myself.
Yeah.
And then they got pissed off at me, and I was like, "Yeah, but I think I'm allowed to because I'm still a DP." So I still could do better. Like I have great admiration for those DPs that have become directors that are able to just like let it go.
What about the directors that have become DPs for their own projects, like Soderbergh or Paul Thomas
Well,
Anderson?
I respect Soderbergh. I really respect him. I respected him in Solaris because I thought that movie was actually quite beautifully photographed. And I understand why Soderbergh does it. So for me, I'm not one of those people who's like, and I'm friends with Ed Lockman, who shot Brockovich and a bunch of other movies with Soderbergh. And Ed Lockman, who's a master cinematographer himself, loves that Soderbergh shoots. He has great, like, he gets it. He's like, Soderbergh does it because, honestly, it's like the most straightforward path to him executing something. And since he's the kind of guy that literally edits his scenes at lunch,
I've heard
or right
that,
when
yeah.
at rap, that in his world, he's like almost like just like a tiny indie filmmaker, even if he's making Ocean's 13. He's like, his brain is meant to like sort of control all those elements, and I totally get it.
And I think some directors just have a stronger sense of visuals than others, you know. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Fincher is like a guy who can, and Fincher and Cameron could do the job themselves every day of the week.
What's your testing process like? What's your before you go into a show? What's your testing like?
It's a great question. I love to test as much as they'll let me. You know, I'll try to find any opportunity to test something, right? Because I just love to get started, and I also feel like anything you test is an opportunity to like start to figure out the language of the movie.
Are you testing with actors? Are you testing in locations or?
Joker, I went out and tested on locations because we were shooting film, and then we decided to shoot digital late, so we sort of had some stuff. But I went to the actual locations at night, brought a camera, shot some film, looked at it, got a feel for like what was free, like what the world was giving me for free.
Yeah.
You know, because we were trying to do it in a way that was, you know, kind of available light and as many opportunities as we could. So I wanted to see what the world was giving me. But sometimes it's like, in every movie, you know, you'll have like you'll like pick out, you know, 5 or 6 things in the script, maybe 10, that are just like, what are we doing here? Oh, we have a projector that has to show a movie. Well, are we going to do a real projector?
Yeah.
Or are we going to do a digital projector that feels like a real projector?
It's always something that you have to figure out how to do.
I do a very specific makeup hair test that I've done now for years.
What is
it? And it's very intentional. So it's very simple. I'll give it away because I got no problem giving it away. So it's a 12 by 20, basically neutral gray. So 18% gray, basically. So I can make it lighter. I can make it darker if it doesn't take any light. as just a very simple background. And then I have a key light from the left, which is like usually a 12 by 12 with like an egg grate on, with a light control on it. Probably a cool light source, like so it'll represent daylight or it'll represent HMIs. And then on the other side is something warm, so I'll represent, tungsten light or something like that. And then I'll put a soft top light box over the top, and I'll bring it pretty low and put it out in front of the actor so it kind of wraps as like a top light. And then I'll set up a backlight with a hard backlight in 2 different colors or 2 different types of hard backlights, maybe an open Fresnel and an HMI. Now LEDs are obviously a lot more easy because I can put them all on dimmer boards. And then I'll put some soft backlights. And then I'll run them through a bunch of color scenarios, right? And this is where digital can really be helpful, right? So I'll run them from 2800 Kelvin all the way to 3400 Kelvin on the warm side. I'll go 10,000 degree Kelvin all the way down to 5,000 on the cool side. And then I'll run a bunch of like cyan fluorescent look, warm white fluorescent look. I'll do colors if it's going to be in the movie, red, something more dramatic if I'm trying to test some colors. And while the person's under, so I'll set the actor up and I'll stick a dolly track right down the middle. And so it's just a slow creep towards the actor. And you'll see this because they ended up using our makeup hair test.
Oh,
as
for Joker. Yeah. I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I wish they had the whole thing because you'd really see it. But I'll just basically cycle through those color changes in real time. And here's the beauty of that, right? One, it's less boring for the people watching the makeup hair test, right? In that it's like if you just have like a single source, it's great. And I've done that. I used to do that before I came up with this strategy. But that's all you get. You get that. And it's also not really reflective of anything else in the movie.
Right.
Right? It's like basically like setting up a still shoot. It's not really reflective of anything real that you're testing in the movie.
And you're doing that to see how the color reacts with the actors.
Right. So you'll see how if we're in a warm white environment, it's going to do this to the wardrobe. That's an obvious thing that we can look at. But also it's an opportunity to test some things like 2 or 3 stops down top light. Mm-hmm. And if it comes up, if that's the only thing you did to test, you could get fired, right? Because people are like, this is the fucking movie. 3 stops down, top light. And there are people I've seen more DPs, and we've talked about it amongst friends of mine, get more nervous at the camera and makeup hair test than they do on any other day of the shoot because that's when the actresses are fun, actors are starting. People can get tense. In this way, it never puts one look to get. So if it's 3 stops under for a second, 8 seconds later, it's going to go to exposure.
Right, but you get to see what the 3 stops under looks like.
Yes, but better than that, you get to see reactions without ever asking people. So if you're watching it together and they go, that looks cool, you go, great, I could go low. This person's not going to be afraid of the dark.
Right.
Or if suddenly you get a producer who's like, what was with that one? You go, okay, good. I'm testing the boundaries of where people are going to have skittish or going to get skittish. So it gives you an opportunity to really get some feedback without them even knowing they're giving you feedback because you could just listen to them while they see it happen.